The doorbell exploded like a fire alarm at 7 p.m. on a Friday. I'd just been promoted to marketing director at Blue Arc Dynamics, pulling in $280,000 a year. I just wanted a quiet night, but standing at my apartment door was my brother, pounding like a debt collector, with my parents standing behind him, their faces like stone. "Open the door," he demanded. "The family needs money, right now. My name is Briella Lawrence." The email had arrived at 5:47 p.m., just as the Seattle skyline was dissolving into a bruised purple twilight. The subject line was sterile. WARI, Q4 Review and Compensation Structure. My boss, Victor, never wasted words. I had been braced for a fight, for another round of, let's see what the budget says next year. Instead, my eyes scanned the PDF attachment. Director, Marketing Strategy, and then the number, spelled out in the formal offer letter as if the digits themselves were too shocking to be typed. $280,000, plus a performance bonus that was larger than my first 3 years of salary combined. I read the email 3 times. The tension I had been carrying in my shoulders for a decade, the constant, grinding pressure to be smarter, faster, and more essential than everyone else in the room. Finally released. I leaned my head back against the cool leather of my office chair, my home office chair. A small, involuntary sound escaped my throat. It was relief. It was the sound of a marathon ending. My apartment in Maple Row was my sanctuary. It was the first place I had ever lived that didn't smell like old carpet and someone else's cooking. It smelled like my own diffused scent of white tea and the faint, clean varnish of the hardwood floors. This was what the money meant. It wasn't just a number. It was silence. It was security. It was the ability to close a door and have it stay closed. I shut the laptop. The sudden quiet of the apartment wrapped around me. I had plans for this weekend. My plan was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Maybe a bath so hot it turned my skin red. Maybe I would order the expensive Thai food from the place down the street. Maybe I would just sleep for 12 hours. The doorbell shattered the silence. It wasn't a polite chime. It was a rapid, furious pressing of the button, an angry fist jamming the electronic buzzer until it sounded like a single, sustained scream. My blood went cold. I knew that rhythm. It was the rhythm of entitlement. It was the rhythm of my brother, Trent. I didn't move. Maybe he would leave. The buzzer went again, longer this time. Then, the pounding. Not a knock, but the flat, heavy slam of a palm against the solid wood of my door. "Briella, I know you're in there. Open this damn door." I crept from my living room, staying out of the direct line of the peephole. My heart, which had been so light moments before, was now a heavy stone in my chest. The joy from the email, the $280,000, felt like ash in my mouth. The pounding stopped, replaced by a low murmuring. I pressed my eye to the peephole, and the distorted fishbowl world outside snapped into focus. It wasn't just Trent. He was there, his face puffy and red, vibrating with a manic energy, but behind him, positioned like twin gargoyles, were my parents, Lena and Carl. My mother, Lena, was dressed in her long-suffering coat, the one she wore to doctor's appointments and parent-teacher conferences when I was a kid. Her arms were crossed, her lips a thin white line of disapproval. My father, Carl, just looked tired. He was staring at the geometric pattern on the hallway carpet, his hands shoved deep into the pockets of his jacket, already defeated. Trent hammered the door again. "Briella, stop playing games." I unhooked the chain, but only to open the door just enough for the heavy brass links to catch. It left a gap perhaps 3 inches wide. "What do you want, Trent?" My voice was lower than I expected, colder. His eyes, bloodshot and frantic, zeroed in on the gap. He tried to shoulder the door open, but the chain held firm, the metal groaning. "What do I want?" he scoffed, pressing his face close. I could smell the stale beer on his breath, even through the crack. "Look at this place." He motioned to the sliver of my entryway he could see, the recessed lighting, the corner of the abstract painting I'd bought last month. Living in Maple Row. Fancy. Must be nice to live up here in your castle, huh? Getting all high and mighty while your family is struggling. I'm not struggling. Trent, my mother's voice cut in. It was the voice she used when she wanted to sound sweet, but it was laced with saccharine poison. We are just fine. We are here to see our daughter. She pushed Trent lightly aside and tried to paste a smile onto her face for the peephole. Briella, honey, she cooed. Don't be like this. We came all this way. You know how hard it was for your father and me to raise you. We sacrificed. Oh, the things we sacrificed so you could have every chance. We worked our fingers to the bone. I said nothing. I just waited. The performance always had an endgame. It's time you paid that back, Briella, she said, the sweetness dropping away, replaced by the flat, cold tone of a creditor. A good daughter knows when it's time to pay her debts. It's time to pay your own, your respect. Trent shoved her back. We don't have time for this crap. We need money, now. I'm not giving you money, Trent. You don't get it, he hissed. He was vibrating, his leg bouncing in the hallway. This isn't a joke. I'm in deep. I mean deep this time. It was a bad beat. The game was rigged. I need $40,000. 40,000. The number hung in the air. Obscene. 40,000, I repeated. Not a question. A statement. Yeah, 40 G's. And before you start crying about it, I know what you make. I know about the promotion. You think I'm stupid? I know about Blue Arc dynamics. You can get it. It's nothing to you. It's a rounding error. My stomach clenched. How? How did he know? The email had arrived less than 2 hours ago. And my father, Carl, mumbled, finally looking up. His gaze met mine through the crack, weak and pleading. The rest of it would help us. Your mother and I, we want to buy an RV, you know, our retirement dream, just to travel, see the Grand Canyon before we get too old. The classic pincer movement. Trent provides the crisis, the immediate, violent demand. My parents provide the emotional justification. The dream, I am callously denying them. The 40,000 was for Trent's gambling. The rest, and I was sure the rest was a significant, undefined number, was their finder's fee. I kept my hand on the door. My other hand slowly reached for my phone on the entryway table. Get away from my door, I said. Briella. Don't you dare, Lena snapped. Don't you dare use that tone with your mother. I am not giving you $40,000. I am not buying you an RV. You are not welcome here. You selfish bitch! Trent slammed his shoulder into the door again, rattling the frame. The chain screamed. After everything we did for you, we paid for that fancy college. We paid for... You paid for nothing, I said, my voice shaking now, not with fear, but with a sudden, hot rage. I paid for it. I got the scholarships. I worked 3 jobs. I paid every single cent of my own tuition. While my hand was on my phone, I didn't dial. Not yet. I slid my thumb over the screen, my muscles remembering the sequence. I opened my photos. I opened the folder labeled Legal. You need to leave, I said. You are in violation. Violation of what? Trent laughed, a high cracking sound. Violation of being a bad daughter? I stepped back from the door, walked to the small console table under the mirror, and picked up the folded, laminated document I kept there. I walked back and, without a word, pushed the paper through the 3-inch gap. It was the restraining order, the one I'd filed 2 years ago after Trent broke into my old apartment and stole my laptop. It was still valid for another 8 months. Their names, Trent Lawrence, Lena Lawrence, Carl Lawrence, were printed in clear, black ink. Trent stared at it. His face, which had been red with rage, went pale with incandescent fury. You papered us? Carl whispered, his voice cracking. He looked horrified. She didn't just paper us, you idiot, Lena spat. She hadn't looked at the document. She didn't need to. She knew what it was. Her eyes locked onto my face through the narrow opening. And then, she smiled. She reached into her purse and pulled out her own phone. "You think you're smart, Briella? You think you're better than us?" She held the phone up, angling it at the crack in the door, trying to get a picture of my face. The flash was blinding. It pulsed once, twice. "What are you doing?" "I'm just documenting," she said, her thumbs tapping furiously on the screen. "Just letting the family know how you're treating your poor mother and father, leaving them out in the cold." My own phone buzzed in my hand, a notification from the Lawrence family WhatsApp group I was still inexplicably a part of. A photo of my own door, the brass chain, and the sliver of my face, blurred and panicked. Behind it, the caption, "Our rich daughter won't even let us in. She served us with papers. She is abandoning her family. Pray for us." "Lena, stop," I said, my voice low. "Stop it right now." "Or what?" she taunted. "You'll call the cops? Go ahead. Call them. Tell them your mother is posting on Facebook. See how fast they get here." A door down the hall opened, a soft, crackling voice. "Is everything all right out here?" It was Mr. Avery, from 12B. He was 90 years old, frail as a bird, and holding a small, yapping terrier. He was standing in his doorway, squinting at the three of them. A witness? A civilian? The dynamic shattered. Lena immediately dropped her phone into her purse. Carl, who looked like he might throw up, took a step back. Trent was the only one who held his ground, but the manic energy had focused into a single point of hatred directed at me. "We're fine," Carl mumbled to Mr. Avery. "Just visiting our daughter." "A bit loud for a visit," Mr. Avery observed, not unkindly. "We're leaving," Lena snapped. Grabbing Carl's arm, she pulled him toward the elevator. "This was a mistake. She's not worth it." Trent didn't move. He just stared at me through the gap. His eyes were flat, dead. "Trent," Lena called, her voice sharp, from down the hall. He took one step closer to the door. He lowered his voice to a hiss, a promise meant only for me. "You're going to regret this," he whispered. "You think you're safe in there? You think your money and your paper protects you? It doesn't. You'll pay. One way or another, you will pay." He turned and stalked to the elevator, not waiting for it to arrive before jabbing the down button repeatedly. I watched them until the elevator doors closed. I waited another 30 seconds, listening to the hum of the hallway light. I heard Mr. Avery's door click shut. Only then did I close my own door. The sound of the deadbolt sliding into place was deafeningly loud. I fastened the chain. I turned the third lock, the one at the bottom. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood. The wood Trent's hand had just been pounding. The shaking started in my hands, then moved to my knees. The adrenaline was draining away, leaving behind a cold, sick dread. The promotion, the money, the $280,000. It wasn't a shield. It was a target. I pushed myself off the door. I walked, mechanically, into my living room and picked up my laptop. I opened a new document. I titled it, Incident Report, November 10th. I wrote down the time, 7:05 p.m. I wrote down the names, Trent Lawrence, Lena Lawrence, Carl Lawrence. I wrote down the demand, $40,000. I wrote down the threat, "You're going to regret this. You'll pay." I went to my phone. I took a screenshot of Lena's post in the family group. I saved the image. I backed up the file to a secure, encrypted cloud drive that no one knew about. I documented everything. My quiet weekend was over. My life as I knew it was over. They hadn't just knocked on my door. They had declared war, and I, Briella Lawrence, was not going to lose. I didn't sleep Friday night. How could I? I sat on my sofa, the one I'd spent 6 months saving for, and watched the digital clock on my oven tick over from 2:59 a.m. to 3 a.m. The silence in the apartment was a fragile skin, and I kept waiting for the sound of Trent's fist to break it again. The first volley, after Lena's initial WhatsApp message, landed at 6:15 a.m. on Saturday. My phone, which I'd left on the kitchen counter, began to buzz, not once, but a continuous, angry vibration. The Lawrence family group chat was exploding. Aunt Carol. Lena, this is horrible. Briella. How could you? Your own parents. Uncle Mark. That's what you get for spoiling one kid. She thinks she's a queen now. Cousin Stephanie. OMG. Aunt Lena. Is Uncle Carl okay? She left him in the hallway? Lena's post from the night before, the one with the blurry photo of my eye through the door crack, had metastasized. It was no longer just a post. It was a judgment. She had added a new comment at dawn. We just don't know what to do. We're worried we might lose our home. We raised her to be a good person. But the money changed her. Our hearts are broken. Lose their home, a home they owned outright, paid for with a mysterious inheritance 20 years ago, a home I had never once been asked to contribute to. Because they'd always framed it as their investment, it was a lie so blatant, so audacious. It was designed to stop me in my tracks. I didn't reply. I just made a new folder on my secure drive. Evidence, November 11th. I screenshotted every single comment. I exported the chat history. I needed coffee. I hadn't had a real coffee in 36 hours. I told myself it was safe. The restraining order meant they couldn't be near the building. They were probably sleeping off their manufactured rage. I put on sunglasses and a baseball cap. I took the service elevator down to the parking garage, my eyes scanning every corner. The garage was quiet, just the hum of the fluorescent lights. I got into my car, locked the doors, and pulled out onto the street. I was 3 blocks away, waiting at a red light, when I saw him. Trent. He was parked in a beat-up blue sedan I didn't recognize, across the intersection. He wasn't looking at me. He was holding his phone up, filming. The little red light on his screen was a glaring, malevolent eye. He had been waiting. He had slept in his car, or worse. My parents had driven him here and dropped him off, like a commando on a mission. The light turned green. I drove, my hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles were white. I didn't go to the coffee shop. I drove straight back to the apartment, my heart hammering a hole in my chest. The reel was live on his Instagram account before I even got back into the elevator. The video was shaky, zoomed in too close on my car. The caption, "Look at my rich sister Briella Lawrence, driving her luxury car. Just drove right past me. Wouldn't even roll down the window. Some people forget where they come from. She works at Blue Arc Dynamics. Maybe they should know who they hired." He tagged the company. He tagged Blue Arc Dynamics. The poison was no longer contained within the family. He had just thrown it into my professional life. I spent the rest of the weekend in a state of suspended animation. I didn't eat. I just documented. I downloaded the reel using a third-party site. I captured the IP address from the comment he'd left on his own video. I took screenshots of the new wave of comments, this time from strangers. Disgusting. Shame on her. Hope you get fired. Monday morning arrived. It felt less like the start of a week and more like a verdict. I was online at 7 a.m., earlier than usual. I wanted to see the damage. The damage was worse than I could have imagined. An email, not to me, it had been sent to the general info address for Blue Arc Dynamics and to our entire executive team, including Victor and the CEO. From a concerned family member. Subject: ethical concerns regarding your employee, Briella Lawrence. To whom it may concern. We are the loving family of Briella Lawrence. We are writing this with heavy hearts, but we feel it is a matter of public safety and corporate responsibility. Our father, Carl, is currently in the hospital. He suffered a mild heart episode Friday night after a very stressful encounter. He needs medication we cannot afford. We only asked Briella for help, a small loan. She is a very wealthy woman now. She refused. She told us to let him die. We are worried about her mental state. She is not the woman we raised. We are scared of her. She has a history of erratic behavior. We pray for her, and we pray you will talk some sense into her before something terrible happens. I read it once. My vision tunneled. I read it again. The words swimming. Let him die. History of erratic behavior. mental state. These were not the clumsy, furious words of Trent. This was cold. This was calculated. This was Lena. And then, the second email hit my inbox. I watched it happen in real time, like a car crash in slow motion. Sawyer, from the design team, a sweet guy with good intentions and absolutely zero situational awareness, received the email as part of a forwarded chain. He hit reply all. His email was addressed to the entire executive team, plus HR, plus the general marketing listserv. Hey everyone, this is really awful. I'm sure this is just a terrible misunderstanding. Briella is a great person. We should all send good vibes to her dad. Maybe we could start a collection for the hospital bills? My internal chat icon, normally silent on a Monday morning, exploded. It was a rapid-fire succession of pings, a digital hailstorm. From Victor, my office, now, do not reply to Sawyer. Do not reply to anyone. From HR, Briella, please come to Victor's office immediately. We need to discuss a sensitive communication. From a colleague, OMG Briella, is your dad okay? From another, what is going on? I stood up from my desk. My legs felt like they were filled with wet sand. I walked out of my home office, grabbed my laptop, and walked back in. I couldn't go to his office. I was remote. I was trapped here, in the same apartment they had besieged. I messaged Victor. I'm on my way, logging into the call. I clicked the link he sent. His face appeared, severe and unsmiling. 2 other windows popped up, Maria from HR, and a woman I didn't recognize, who introduced herself as Clara Hines, from the corporate legal department. My stomach dropped to the floor. Legal. Briella, Victor started, his voice flat. We have a situation. I know, I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. I've seen the email. It is a lie. Every word of it. My father is not in the hospital. This is part of an ongoing extortion attempt by my family. I have a valid restraining order against all 3 of them. Clara Hines leaned forward. She wasn't an HR person, all soft edges and concerned smiles. She was sharp, her eyes analytical. Ms. Lawrence, do you have that order? I do, I said. I opened the legal folder on my desktop. I shared my screen. I showed her the scanned PDF. It's valid until July of next year. I then showed her the email from Friday, my promotion, the $280,000 salary. This is the trigger, I said. They found out. I showed her the WhatsApp messages from Lena, the screenshot of the losing their home lie. I showed her Trent's Instagram reel, the video, the caption, the tag to Blue Ark's official account. I showed her the email from a concerned family member. I opened the email header. The originating IP address, I said, my voice gaining strength as the strategist in me took over. It's not from a home address. I can't trace it fully. But it's not a standard ISP. It's masked. Clara watched, saying nothing. Maria from HR looked pale. Victor was just staring at the screen, his expression unreadable. And then, I said, my voice finally cracking, I shared a new link, a GoFundMe page. It had been created Sunday night. The title, Help the Lawrences Keep Their Home. The picture was of me. From college, my graduation day, I was standing between Lena and Carl, wearing my cap and gown. They were both smiling, proud. It was one of the last good days. The text was written by Lena Lawrence. It was a masterpiece of manipulative fiction. Our daughter Briella has fallen in with a bad crowd. She is a high-earning executive at Blue Ark Dynamics, but she has been convinced by others to turn her back on the family that raised her. We are facing eviction and medical bankruptcy, and she refuses to help. We are just asking for a little help. $20,000 to cover the medical bills her father's insurance won't pay for. God bless. Medical bankruptcy, eviction, it was all there. A perfect, self-contained narrative of a loving, elderly couple and their cruel, wealthy, sociopathic daughter. Briella, Clara said, her voice cutting through my haze. Stop. This is good. You have documented everything. This is a crisis plan. You've already built it. There's one more thing, I whispered. I couldn't stop the tears now. They weren't from fear. They were from this specific, targeted pain. I screen-shared my phone, a text message. It had come in while I was waiting for the meeting to start. From my granddad Roy, my mother's father, the only one who ever saw me, the one who sent me $20 bills in the mail in college, with notes that said, "Don't tell your mother, buy books." His text read, "Briella, your mother called me. She was crying. She said Carl is in the hospital. She said you won't help. This isn't you. Call your mother, please. It's family." I had replied instantly, "Granddad, it's a lie. He's not sick. They're trying to get money from me. It's a scam." I waited. I watched the 3 dots appear, him typing, and then they vanished. "He left me on red," I said to the screen, to my boss and 2 lawyers. "He didn't reply. He believes them." The silence in the video call was absolute. Then, my phone buzzed again on the desk. A new message. Not from Granddad Roy. A blocked number. An anonymous text. It was just 6 words. "Pay the 40,000, or this is just the beginning." I held the phone up to the camera. Clara Hines didn't blink. "Okay, Briella," she said, her voice all business. "Here is what we are going to do. This is no longer a family matter. This is a coordinated smear campaign and wire fraud. Victor, you handle the internal comms. Shut Sawyer down. Maria, you draft a memo on company policy regarding online harassment. Briella, you and I are going to talk. We are not going to be defensive. We are going to attack." I looked at the text message. Just the beginning. I looked at Clara. "What do you need me to do?" I finally understood. This wasn't about getting the $40,000. They knew I wouldn't just give it to them. This was about taking it. It was about poisoning my life so thoroughly, from the inside out, that I would have no choice but to pay them to make it stop. They weren't just trying to rob me. They were trying to break me. The video call with Victor and Maria ended. My screen went black, then reflected my own face. I looked pale, my eyes wide and dark. But the call with Clara Hines did not end. She had messaged me privately. "Stay on. We need a new link. Secure." A new invitation popped up, a one-on-one. I clicked. Her face reappeared, this time without the corporate backdrop. She was in a simple, gray office, no distractions. "Okay, Briella," she said. Her voice was different now. The measured HR tone was gone, replaced by the clipped precision of a surgeon. "Here's the situation. What happened in that meeting was for the company. We've established a record. We've contained the internal breach from Sawyer, and we've confirmed our support for you as an employee. That was phase 1. What happens now is phase 2. This is you." "What do I do?" I asked. My voice was a thin thread. "First, you stop being the victim, right now. They are using emotion to manipulate you, your grandfather, and your colleagues. Emotion is messy. It's subjective. We are going to counter it with facts. Facts are clean. They are a weapon." I nodded, grabbing a legal pad from my desk. "First," Clara said, holding up a finger, "the existing restraining order. You have the hard copy. I've already dispatched a paralegal to the Wake County Courthouse to pull the file and confirm its active status in the system. We're not just assuming it's valid. We are verifying it. We need to know if they filed any motions to dismiss it that you don't know about. We'll have that confirmation within the hour." "Okay, verified." I wrote it down. "Second, cease and desist. I am drafting 3 separate letters. One for Trent, one for Lena, one for Carl. They will be sent via certified mail with return receipt requested. They will be brutal. They will outline every single violation of the existing order. They will reference the harassment, the Instagram reel, the WhatsApp messages, the libelous email, and the fraudulent GoFundMe. They will demand the immediate removal of all online materials. They will state, in no uncertain terms, that any further contact, direct or indirect, including through third parties like your grandfather, will be met with immediate legal action, including citations for contempt of court and new criminal complaints." Will they even read them? I don't care if they read them, Clara snapped, not unkindly. I care that they are delivered. The signed receipts are the proof. They are the next brick in our wall. It proves they were formally warned to stop their campaign of harassment. It makes every action they take after receiving it willful and malicious. My hand was flying across the page. Third, your building, Maple Row. You need to contact your building management. Now, you will send a polite, formal email requesting all security camera logs for the exterior doors and the elevator banks for Friday. November 10th. Between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., you will cite a personal security concern regarding unauthorized individuals on your floor. You are not to mention your family. You are not to get emotional. You are simply a resident requesting standard security footage as part of your lease agreement. Get that email sent before we hang up. I typed, my fingers finding a new rhythm. The panic was receding, replaced by a cold, functional anger. I read the email aloud to Clara. Good, she said. Send it. I hit send. Fourth, your digital footprint. This GoFundMe, this Instagram reel, this is now a reputation management issue. I am assigning a junior analyst from our PR division, someone I trust, to set up alerts. We will use a service to monitor your name, Blue Arc, and any variation of Lawrence family or Briella. We need to know the second something new is posted. We are not just defending, we are monitoring the battlefield. Fifth, she continued, not pausing for breath. Your identity, that anonymous text. Pay the $40,000. This has escalated from harassment to overt extortion. They have your social security number. I am going to assume that. They have your date of birth. They believe they are entitled to your money. They might not wait for you to give it. They might try to take it. A chill that had nothing to do with the temperature of the room ran down my spine. As soon as we hang up, Clara ordered, you will contact all 3 major credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. You will place a credit freeze on your file. Not a fraud alert, a freeze. This will make it impossible for anyone, including you, to open a new line of credit in your name without a specific PIN. You will write this PIN down and put it somewhere safe. They will not be able to get a credit card, a car loan, or a payday loan in your name. Do you understand? Yes, I said. Credit freeze, all 3? Good. Now, for our side, that email, a concerned family member. You were right about the IP. Our IT security team has been working on it since Victor flagged it. They found it. It wasn't just masked. It was routed through a proxy. But the original source ping came from a public access terminal, a 24-hour internet cafe in Raleigh, the quick stop net and print on Western Boulevard. Does that mean anything to you? Raleigh? I searched my memory. My parents live near there. That's less than 5 miles from their house. Exactly. Trent isn't smart enough to cover his tracks. He's smart enough to know he shouldn't send it from his phone, but he's stupid enough to use a public terminal 5 minutes from his house. Our team has already contacted the owner. The terminal's camera footage from that time block is being pulled. I just stared at her. The speed, the efficiency. Listen to me, Briella, Clara said, and her voice softened, just for a moment. This is the most important part. You will be tempted to call your grandfather. You will be tempted to reply to your Aunt Carol. You will be tempted to post your own side of the story on Trent's stupid video. You will do none of those things. They're lying about me, I whispered. He thinks I'm a monster. It doesn't matter what they think right now. It only matters what we can prove. From this moment forward, you do not react. You do not engage. You do not get emotional. You document. You are a data collector. Every time you get a text, a message, a tag, you screenshot it. You save the metadata. You note the time and the date. You do not reply. You forward it to me. We are building a file. And every new piece of evidence they hand us, they are just building their own cage. Let the evidence speak. It is much louder and far more eloquent than your anger. The call ended. I was alone again in the silence. But it was a different silence. It wasn't empty. It was full of purpose. I spent the next 4 hours executing the plan. I called all 3 credit bureaus. The automated systems were a nightmare, but I navigated them. My credit was frozen. I began to build the timeline Clara mentioned. I opened a new spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, time. Column C, event. Column D, perpetrator. Trent, Lena, Carl. Column E, evidence. Screenshot link, video file, EML file. Column F, violation, restraining order, libel, extortion. I worked backward, starting with the 6-word text, then Grandad Roy's message, the GoFundMe, Sawyer's email, the concerned family member email, Trent's reel, Lena's WhatsApp posts, the confrontation at the door. I exported every file, labeled it meticulously, and uploaded it to the secure drive Clara had created for me. Watching the timeline fill up, row by row, was strangely calming. The chaos of the last 72 hours resolved into a clean, logical, and damning sequence of actions. My fear began to recede, replaced by something hard and clear: determination. The timeline also made something else clear. The threat was escalating, the anonymous text. Just the beginning felt literal. My apartment, my sanctuary, suddenly felt porous. The 3 locks on the front door felt like paper. I went online. I found a local, bonded security firm with high ratings. I paid for their premium residential suite package. A man named Marco arrived 2 hours later. He was polite, professional, and built like a vending machine. He didn't ask questions. He just got to work. He checked the integrity of my door frame. He examined the locks, replacing the core on my main deadbolt with a high-security, pick-resistant model. He tested my windows. He checked my balcony, which faced a small courtyard. "Your Wi-Fi," he said, holding a small device. "Your router password is still the default one from the cable company." I flushed. I never thought to change it. "Anyone in the parking lot could be sniffing your traffic," he said, not unkindly. "They probably are." He reset it, creating a password so complex I had to take a picture of it. He checked my devices for any spyware or trackers. He gave me a small, discreet panic button I could wear as a pendant. "You're clean," he said, packing his bag. "For now, be smart." The apartment felt solid again, but the work wasn't done. The final piece of the puzzle, the one thing that could counter their biggest lie, the lie that they had paid for my life. I went to my closet. In the back, on the top shelf, was a fireproof document box. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside was my other life, my real life. I pulled out the file, the original, embossed letter from the university, congratulating me on the Chancellor's scholarship, the scholarship that covered 100% of my tuition and fees for all 4 years. I pulled out the stapled bank statements from my college job at the library, showing the meager deposits and the withdrawals for rent on my tiny, off-campus apartment. I pulled out the bursar's receipts, stamped paid, that showed my student loan disbursements for my living expenses, loans I had taken out in my own name, and which I had paid off in full 36 months ago. These weren't copies. They were the originals. The paper was thin, almost brittle. This was the truth. I thought about Lena's GoFundMe, the lie about medical bankruptcy, the lie about paying for my education. This file in my hands was the knife that would gut that story. I couldn't keep this here, not anymore. The next morning, Tuesday, I took the files to my bank. I opened a safe deposit box. I placed the original scholarship letter, the tuition receipts, and a hard drive containing a fully encrypted backup of my evidence timeline into the cold, metal box. I locked it. I kept one key. The bank kept the other. As I walked out of the bank, breathing in the cold November air, I felt lighter. I was ready for Phase 3. That night, I was working late, trying to catch up on the Blue Arc projects that had been derailed by my life exploding. It was almost 11 p.m. I was sitting at my dining table, which faced the window. A car, a blue sedan, the same one Trent had been filming from. It was parked across the street, in a no-parking zone, directly under a streetlight. I turned off my dining room light, plunging my apartment into darkness. I stood at the window, just out of sight. He was just sitting there. The windows were fogged. I couldn't tell if he was alone. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't doing anything, just watching. 1 hour passed, 2 hours. My heart was a cold, hard knot. He was violating the order just by being there. He was intimidating me. At 2:17 a.m., after 3 solid hours of sitting, the car's engine turned on. It didn't drive away. It just idled. I picked up my phone. I didn't call 911. I called Clara's 24-hour emergency number, the one she'd given me. Her voice was instantly awake. "Briella, what?" "He's here," I whispered, still watching the car. "Trent, he's outside. He's been here for 3 hours, in the blue sedan from the video." "Stay away from the window. Is he trying to get in?" "No, he's just sitting, intimidating. He just turned the engine on." "He's violating the order," Clara said, her voice like ice. "Good. I'm on it. Do not engage. Do not turn on your lights. Do not let him know you see him." I heard her typing. "I'm sending a text, a formal alert to the local police precinct. I'm referencing the active restraining order, the address, the vehicle description, and the ongoing harassment case. I'm requesting an immediate, enhanced patrol of your block. They'll come. They'll see him. They'll run his plates, and we will have a new police report to add to the file." The car's headlights flashed on. It pulled away from the curb. Slowly, it didn't speed off. It cruised past my building, then turned the corner and was gone. "He's gone," I said. "He just left." "He got spooked," Clara said. "Or he got bored. It doesn't matter. The alert is in. The police will be looking for him now. You did the right thing. You didn't react. You documented. You reported." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "Get some sleep, Briella," Clara said. "Tomorrow, the cease and desist letters land. Tomorrow, the real fight begins." I slept, for the first time in days, a real, deep sleep, born of exhaustion and the small, secure click of the new deadbolt. Clara's final instruction had been to turn off my phone's ringer. "Nothing," she had said, "is going to happen before morning that you can do anything about. Sleep is a weapon. Use it." I woke up at 7 a.m. to a gray, heavy sky. I made coffee. For a few minutes, it was almost normal. I put on my workout clothes, ready to use the small gym in my building. I put my hand on the new, high-security deadbolt. I turned the key. I slid the chain. I opened the door. The smell hit me first, not the clean, faintly ozonic scent of the Maple Row hallway. This was a sharp, chemical reek. It was the smell of a cheap hardware store, a smell of solvents and aerosol. It was the smell of spray paint. My door, the elegant, dark gray door I had chosen when I moved in, was gone. In its place was a wall of wet, dripping, screaming scarlet. The paint was thick, running in long, viscous tears down to the threshold. It had been applied with a furious, close-up spray, and in the center, in huge, jagged, black letters, were 3 words: "Pay or else." My brain went quiet. The shock was so total. It bypassed panic and went straight to a place of icy, surreal calm. This was not a thing that happened in Maple Row. This was a thing that happened in movies, a caricature of a threat. I looked down. They had sprayed the doormat. They had sprayed the brass 12A plaque. And there was something else. The small, decorative mesh screen on my door, a feature I'd always found a bit dated, had been slashed. A single, vertical cut. Jammed into the rip was a piece of folded notebook paper. My hand, encased in the sleeve of my hoodie, reached out. I pulled the paper free. It was damp with the paint fumes. I unfolded it. The handwriting was Trent's, a childish, left-slanting scrawl in blue ballpoint pen. It was supposed to be a threat, but it was just stupid. "Pay the money, bitch." He had misspelled bitch. He had tried to be intimidating in another language and had failed, adding an A to a word that didn't need one. He had probably seen it in a movie. I stared at the note. I stared at the door. I could feel the thud of my own heart, a slow, heavy beat. This was not the act of a criminal mastermind. This was the act of a cornered, idiotic, and increasingly desperate animal. I closed the door, very gently. I locked the deadbolt. I refastened the chain. I walked to the kitchen and washed my hands, though I hadn't touched anything. Then, I picked up my phone. I did not call 911, I called Clara. She answered on the second ring. "Briella." "He's escalated," I said. My voice was a flat line. "My front door. It's covered in red spray paint. The message is, 'Pay or else,' in black. He also slashed a screen and left a note." "A note? Did you touch it?" "With my sleeve. It's in his handwriting. A threat. He tried to write in Spanish and misspelled it." There was a silence on the other end. It was not a silence of shock. It was the silence of a predator recalculating its attack vector. "This is good," Clara said finally, her voice cold and bright. "This is a gift. He is not just harassing you. He is not just violating the restraining order. He is now committing felony vandalism and making a terroristic threat. He has moved from a civil case to a criminal one. He just handed us the entire game." "What do I do?" "You will do this in a specific order. First, you will take pictures, high resolution, from every angle, the door, the note, the floor, the hallway. If you can see it, get close-ups of the words, get wide shots, document everything. Do it now." I did. I put my phone into high-res mode. I took 45 photos. I photographed the note on my clean kitchen counter, both sides. I photographed the paint, the drips, the spray pattern. I was no longer a victim. I was a crime scene photographer. "Done," I said. "Good. Send them to the secure drive. Now, you will call 911. You will use the word vandalism, and you will state that you have a credible, written threat. You will tell them you are in a safe location. When they arrive, you will be calm. You will be polite. You will not cry. You will show them the door. You will give them the note. Tell them you touched it with your sleeve. But it's his. You will give them the name Trent Lawrence. You will give them the existing restraining order number. You will ask for a copy of the full police report. Get the responding officer's name and badge number. Go." I hung up and dialed 911. My voice was a perfect replica of a calm, concerned citizen. I did exactly as Clara had instructed. 2 officers arrived in 20 minutes. They were bored. Vandalism, even in Maple Row, was a hassle, not a tragedy. "Ma'am, you have any idea who would do this?" the older one, Officer Blevins, asked, sighing. "I do," I said. I handed him a freshly printed copy of the restraining order. "My brother, Trent Lawrence. He was here last night, sitting in his car for 3 hours, in violation of this order. I have a report filed on that, too. This is an escalation." Officer Blevins' boredom evaporated. This was no longer just paint. This was a domestic case. This was paperwork. I gave them the note. I showed them the pictures. I gave them Clara's card. "My attorney will be following up with your precinct for the full report." "He spelled bitch wrong," the younger officer noted, looking at the note in its evidence bag. "He's not very bright," I said. They left. I had the case number. I had their names. The next knock came an hour later. It was Mr. Davies, the building manager. He was wearing a tight, pained smile. "Ms. Lawrence, Briella, we've had a complaint from the HOA about the, defacement of the door." The defacement was a criminal act. "Mr. Davies, the police were just here. It was my brother." "Yes, well," he said, adjusting his tie. "That's a terrible, terrible thing, truly. But the HOA has rules. The door is considered part of the common visual aesthetic. I'm afraid I have to issue you a formal notice of violation. You have 30 days to restore the door to its original condition, or we will have it done and bill the, rather significant restoration fee to your account." He handed me an envelope, a formal, linen blend envelope. Inside was a letter, citing bylaw 14C, subsection 8. I had been criminally threatened. and I was being fined for it. I understand, I said, my voice dead. Thank you, Mr. Davies. I will handle it. I closed the door on his apologetic face. I forwarded a scan of the HOA violation to Clara with the subject line, FYI. I needed to get out of the apartment. The fumes were giving me a headache. I went down to the mailroom. I didn't need to check my mail, but it was an act of normal routine in a day that was anything but. I opened my box, junk, a credit card offer, a magazine, and a thick, certified mail envelope from a law firm I didn't recognize. My blood, which had been so cold, ran colder. This was not from Clara. This was to me. I took the elevator back up. I sat on my sofa. I used a letter opener to slice the envelope. It was a court summons. Lena and Carl Lawrence for Briella Lawrence. They were suing me. My own parents. They had filed a petition in civil court for mandatory familial support. I read the legalese, my marketing brain translating it instantly. They were demanding $60,000, plus interest. They were claiming that I, as their only financially successful child, had a moral and fiduciary duty to support their modest retirement needs, the RV, and to cover outstanding family debts. Trent's gambling debts, my father's RV, my mother's, whatever it was she wanted, $60,000. And then I saw the exhibit. Exhibit A, proof of financial support. It was a receipt, a grainy, poorly photocopied receipt from my university for the amount of $18,000. It was marked tuition, paid in full. The date on it was from my sophomore year. My sophomore year, the year I had the chancellor's scholarship, the year my parents had claimed they were helping me out with my books. The receipt was a fake. It was a laughably bad fake. The font was wrong, the logo was pixelated, and most importantly, I had the original, stamped. Paid by scholarship. Bursar's record sitting in a safe deposit box 3 miles away. They had not just lied. They had committed perjury. They had fabricated evidence and submitted it to the court. I started to laugh. It was not a sane sound. It was a high, thin, airless sound. They had escalated. They had spray-painted my door, threatened my life, and then sued me with fake documents. They thought they were building a cage for me. They had just built one for themselves. I picked up the phone. "Clara," I said, my voice shaking with this new, terrible mirth. "You're not going to believe this." "The summons," she said. The laugh died in my throat. "You knew?" "I've been tracking the court docket. It was filed yesterday. I was waiting for you to be served. What did they send? What's their evidence?" "A lawsuit. $60,000 for familial support. And Clara, they attached a fake tuition receipt for $18,000 from my sophomore year." This time, the silence on Clara's end was different. It was the sound of a very, very large shark smelling a very small drop of blood in a very large ocean. "A fake receipt," she said, her voice full of a sudden, deep, and terrifying joy. "They fabricated evidence. They submitted it in a court filing." "They're stupid," I whispered. "They're just so stupid." "This is it, Briella. This is the end of them. They just handed me their heads. They don't just lose now. They get sanctioned. They might even get disbarred, or their lawyer will, for not checking." What do we do?" "We don't just respond to their lawsuit. We countersue. But first, we destroy their evidence. I am drafting a spoliation letter and a motion to compel. We are demanding that they preserve and produce for forensic examination the original digital file of that receipt, the Lawrence tuition fake, JPG, or whatever they called it. We are demanding the computer it was created on. We are demanding all metadata." "What does that mean?" "It means," Clara explained, her voice like steel, "that if they lose that file, they will be held in contempt for destroying evidence. If they produce it, the file's metadata will show us the exact date and time it was created. Yesterday, probably. And the software, like Photoshop, that was used to make it. They are in a box. They can't get out. They have perjured themselves. and we have the proof. I thought of my own, real, paper-thin documents in the bank vault. I have the originals, Clara, the real ones. I know, and we won't even use them, not yet. We'll let them lie first, under oath. My phone beeped. A text, not from a blocked number, from Mr. Avery, from 12B. I had given him my number after the incident, just in case. Dear Briella, the text read, I hope you are quite all right. I heard those officers. I want you to know, I will be more than happy to be a witness. I heard that young man's words on Friday. I heard him demand 40 grand. I heard him threaten you. You let me know what I need to do. I started to cry. This time, it wasn't fear. It wasn't rage. It was the crushing, overwhelming relief of one small, decent act in a world of malice. Clara, I said, my voice thick. My neighbor. He's willing to testify. He heard the threat. He heard the $40,000 demand. Clara was quiet for a long moment. Well, she said, that's our witness. That seals the timeline. I'm filing now. An emergency motion for an expanded order of protection, 500 feet, no contact, no emails, no texts, no third-party messages, and we are requesting a hearing date for the contempt charge for the restraining order violation. The spray paint just gave us that. I looked at my door, the red paint, the HOA letter, the fraudulent lawsuit. They were turning up the heat. They were trying to boil me alive. They didn't understand. I wasn't trapped in the water with them. I was the fire. I was no longer afraid. I was simply and completely ready. Clara's counterfiling, the one demanding the metadata for the fake receipt, landed like a tactical bomb. Their side, a small-time lawyer named Beeman, who probably took the case on contingency, went completely silent. Our motion for contempt and the expanded restraining order was set for a hearing. We were on the offense. It was exactly what they couldn't handle. The silence lasted 4 days, not the quiet, anxious silence of before. This was a tactical silence. The GoFundMe page went under review. Trent's Instagram account was suddenly made private. The family WhatsApp group was a digital graveyard. They're not giving up, Clara said, her voice a low hum over the phone. We spoke every morning. They're re-strategizing. The poor old parents angle failed. The violent intimidation angle failed. They are now going for the nuclear option. What's the nuclear option? I asked. I was at my desk. My door, now a flat, primer gray panel awaiting its final coat, was closed. They are going to try to prove that you are not a person, Clara said. They will try to strip you of your personhood. It's the only move they have left. They will try to take away your right to make your own decisions. Be ready. The email arrived the next day. It was not from Beeman. It was from the court. A new petition had been filed. It was a petition for emergency guardianship. Lena and Carl Lawrence, as concerned loving parents, were petitioning the court to grant them immediate temporary guardianship over the person and estate of Briella Lawrence. I read the filing, my blood turning to ice. It was all there. Lena's words, polished by a desperate lawyer. The erratic behavior email from the concerned family member was attached as Exhibit A. The abandonment of her parents in the hallway was cited as callous disregard for human life. My history, my difficult teenage years, my pulling away from the family, was painted as a long-term pattern of mental instability. They claimed I was suffering from a break from reality, likely substance-induced, which was causing manic spending, my apartment, and paranoid delusions, the restraining order. They claimed my new $280,000 salary was a danger to myself and others, and that I was financially incompetent to manage it. They were asking the court to strip me of everything, my job, my money, my apartment, my mind. They wanted to have me declared legally insane so they could take my money. I was already on the video call with Clara. She was reading her own copy. Her face was a mask of cold fury. This, she said, is a declaration of war. They are trying to get a judge to sign an emergency order, put you on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. and freeze your assets before you can even respond." "Can they do that?" I whispered. "No, because I'm not letting it get that far." She was already typing, her fingers a blur. "The judge on this petition is a smart woman. She won't grant an ex parte order like this based on a one-sided, hysterical filing. She will— Yes, she's just done it." A new email pinged. The judge had denied the emergency request, but she had granted a hearing, and she had ordered a full independent neuropsychological evaluation of me, Briella Lawrence, to be completed by a court-appointed expert within 48 hours. "They didn't get the ambush they wanted," Clara said. "But they got their evaluation. This is their entire case now. This is the whole game. They believe you will crack. They believe you will go in there, get emotional, and prove their case for them. They think they can break you." "And what am I going to do?" I asked. "You," Clara said, "are going to go in there and you are going to be the smartest, calmest, most boringly sane person that doctor has ever met. You are going to give him nothing. You are going to be a wall of pure logical fact." The appointment was set for the next day. A Dr. Aris Patel. His office was in a neutral, beige building halfway across town. Clara was forbidden from being in the room. This was something I had to do alone. I walked in at 9 a.m. The office smelled like stale paper and leather. Dr. Patel was a thin man in his 50s, with kind, tired eyes that I knew were not kind at all. They were analytical. He was a human lie detector, a professional evaluator of minds. "Ms. Lawrence," he said, not smiling. "Please, sit. This is a court-ordered evaluation. I'm sure you understand what that means. I am not your therapist. I am not your friend. I am an agent of the court. My report will be submitted to the judge, and it will be factual. Do you consent to begin?" "I do," I said. My voice was low, steady. I'd worn my board meeting outfit, a simple, gray sheath dress, and a black blazer. My hair was pulled back. I was the picture of corporate composure. "This evaluation," he said, looking at his watch, "will likely take several hours. We will cover your personal history, your professional life, and a series of cognitive and executive function tests. Shall we begin with your family?" "I would prefer to start with the facts of the petition, if that's acceptable," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "This is my evaluation, Ms. Lawrence." "I understand, Doctor, but the petition filed by my parents contains a narrative that is entirely fictional. I believe it would be more efficient to address the specific allegations of instability and incompetence directly. I have brought documentation." I had not come empty-handed. I had spent the night creating a new timeline, a new set of evidence, not for Clara, for him. I placed a slim bound binder on the table between us. He looked at it. He looked at me. "Go on," he said. "The petition alleges a history of erratic behavior. This is a reference to an email sent to my employer. Here's the email, and here's the trace report from my company's IT department, showing it was sent from a public internet cafe in Raleigh, 5 miles from my parents' home, on the day after I refused to give my brother $40,000 in cash." I turned the page. "The petition alleges I am financially incompetent. Here are my university transcripts, showing a 4.0 GPA. Here is my scholarship letter, proving I paid for 100% of my own tuition. Here are the payoff statements for my student loans, which I cleared in 3 years. And here is my performance review from Blue Arc Dynamics from last quarter, citing exceptional strategic insight, which led to my promotion." "The petition," I continued, my voice a calm, steady monotone, "alleges paranoid delusions regarding my family. Here is the active, valid restraining order I was forced to file 2 years ago, after my brother broke into my apartment. Here is the police report from Wednesday, documenting the felony vandalism to my door, where he spray-painted, 'Pay or else,' and here is the fraudulent lawsuit my parents filed against me, which includes a fabricated tuition receipt, a document which is now the subject of a motion to compel for forensic analysis." I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I was a strategist presenting a case. Doctor, Patel stared at the binder. He had not expected this. He had expected a hysterical woman, easy to diagnose. He got a CEO defending a quarterly report. He did not open the binder. He pushed it aside. That is for the court. Ms. Lawrence, I am here for you. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your mother. And so the real test began. For 5 hours, he was relentless. It wasn't just a conversation. It was a psychological siege. He made me do memory tests. Repeat these numbers backward. 7, 4, 3, 9, 1. He made me do logic puzzles. If all Zerks are Grobs, and some Grobs are Flibs, are any Zerks Flibs? He tested my reactions. He'd be soft-voiced and kind, then suddenly sharp and accusatory. You seem angry when you talk about your brother. Does that anger ever take over? Do you lose time? I don't lose time, Doctor, I said, meeting his gaze. I feel anger. Yes, I believe a rational person would feel anger when their home is vandalized and their life is threatened. I feel it, I note it, and then I file a police report. I find it to be a very effective executive function. He made me talk about the past. He zeroed in on the pain. Your mother, he said. This GoFundMe. It says you are abandoning them. How does that word make you feel? I paused. This was the trap, the emotional landmine. It makes me tired, I said, honestly, because abandoning implies a prior state of care. The relationship my parents are seeking is not one of love. It is a financial transaction. They are not suing for my time or my affection. They are suing for $60,000. The filing is very specific on that point. I did not hide. I did not evade. I owned the narrative. I explained that I had spent my entire life as the responsible one, and that my success had painted a target on my back. I was not paranoid. I was prepared. My detachment, as he called it, was a learned survival mechanism, a C-suite skill I had been forced to apply to my own blood. At the end of 5 hours, I was exhausted. My brain felt raw. He closed his notebook. Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. That will be all. My report will be filed with the court by end of day tomorrow. I walked out into the blinding afternoon light. I got in my car and, before I even started the engine, I texted Clara. Done. A minute later, she replied, Good. Now, the after party. The rumor had hit the internal Blue Arc Slack channels by noon, while I was still in the evaluation. A concerned employee, another anonymous email, this time just to the marketing listserv, had spread the news. Heard Briella Lawrence is being psychoanalyzed. Judge ordered it. Something about being unfit. Yikes. While I was fighting for my mind, they were attacking my reputation. But this time, Clara and the company were ready. An email from Maria in HR landed in every employee's inbox at 4 p.m. Just as I was driving home. Upholding professional respect. It was a masterpiece. It never mentioned my name. It simply stated that Blue Arc had a zero-tolerance policy for the spreading of malicious, unverified, or personal information about any employee. It referenced the company's code of conduct and the serious disciplinary action that would result from engaging in or propagating workplace gossip that targets an individual. It was a warning shot, fired across the entire company's bow. A second email, this one from Victor, went out just to the marketing department. Team, I am aware of the rumors circulating today. To be clear, Briella Lawrence's position as director is secure. She has the full and unconditional support of this company. We are aware that she is the target of a vicious, external harassment campaign. The company is handling it, and we expect all of you to behave as the professionals you are. I sat at my desk, reading these emails, and I felt a crack in my composure. This was what it felt like, to be protected, to be believed. I logged into the weekly marketing check-in call. My face popped up in the grid. All the little circles went silent. Everyone was looking at me. I smiled. Hey, team, I said, my voice as clear and bright as any other day. Let's talk about the Q4 media buy. Sawyer, what are the new numbers on the programmatic display? I didn't shake. I didn't falter. I was the director. I was in charge. I was sane. I was fine. That night, Clara got the report. She forwarded it to me without comment. It was 2 pages. It was dry, clinical, and beautiful. It detailed the 5 hours of testing. It concluded, the subject, Briella Lawrence, presents as a highly intelligent and articulate individual. She is well-oriented, her memory is acute, and her executive function is in the superior range. She displays a clear, logical, and reality-based understanding of her complex legal and familial situation. There is no evidence, clinical or cognitive, of any psychological disorder, impaired judgment, or incompetence as alleged in the petition. She is, in the opinion of this evaluator, fully and capably in command of her faculties and her estate. Clara filed it with the court immediately. Then she sent it to Beeman, their lawyer. Then she attached it to a new, company-wide memo that Maria sent out, explaining that the malicious rumor has now been completely and fully debunked by a court-appointed expert. We had not just defeated their argument, we had turned it into a weapon and used it to exonerate me. That night, alone in my apartment, I did one last thing. I opened my laptop's camera. I hit record. My face looked back at me, tired, bruised around the eyes, but my gaze was steady. My name is Briella Lawrence, I said to the empty room, to the digital file. It is November 15th. Today, I was subjected to a 5-hour, court-ordered psychological evaluation. My parents, Lena and Carl Lawrence, petitioned to have me declared mentally incompetent. I held up the report, the digital file open on my iPad. I passed. The report states, I am in the superior range. I am sane. I am in control. I took a deep breath. This is not over. I know they are not done, but this is my evidence. This is my testimony. When they lie about what happened today, this will be the truth. I am not paranoid. I am not delusional. I am being hunted, and I am fighting back. I hit stop. I saved the file. Testimony nov15.mp4. I uploaded it to the secure drive. As if on cue, my phone, which I had just unmuted, buzzed. It was a new email, from a new anonymous account. The doctor was just the beginning, you crazy bitch. You won't be so lucky in court. They were predictable. I forwarded it to Clara. I labeled it, Evidence, Harassment, 10:17 p.m. Then, I turned off my phone. They went silent for 3 whole days. I knew what that meant. They were out of stupid ideas. They were saving their last, biggest lie for the courtroom. The 3-day silence, after the victory of the psychological evaluation, was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was a vacuum. The court hearing for the expanded restraining order and the contempt charge for the vandalism was set. Their lawsuit for familial support and my counter-motion to compel the metadata on their fake receipt were both pending. We were in a state of mutually assured legal destruction. I went back to work. I led the media buy meeting. I approved the new ad copy. I lived in the clean, logical world of data and deadlines, using my work as a shield. But the primer gray door I walked past every morning was a constant, ugly reminder. The silence was not peace. It was a held breath. It was the enemy reloading. The email came on a Thursday night. It was just after 10 p.m. I was trying to force my brain to sleep, scrolling through market reports that usually bored me into submission. My inbox chimed, not my work email, but my old personal one, the one I rarely used, the one still tied to old college accounts and newsletters. I didn't recognize the sender's name. From J. Lawrence. Subject, Mom lied about tuition. My heart stopped. J. Lawrence. There was only one, Jenna. My half-sister, the daughter of my father's first marriage, the one that had imploded before he met my mother. Jenna was a ghost, a whisper. She was 16 when I was 6, a sullen, angry teenager who I only vaguely remembered. She was the first one to be subjected to Lena's particular brand of psychological warfare, and more than 10 years ago, she had simply vanished. She'd packed a bag, bought a bus ticket, and disappeared from our lives. No calls, no letters, nothing. She was the first one who escaped. My hand was shaking. I was convinced it was a trap. Another one of their sick, elaborate games. Trent, trying to get to me through a new avenue. I clicked on the email. My security software would have to be good enough. The body of the email was short, the text raw. Briella, I don't know if you'll even read this. I've been watching. I saw the GoFundMe page my aunt sent me. I saw Trent's stupid Instagram video. She's doing it to you now, isn't she? She's pulling the long-suffering mother act. She's lying about money. She's lying about your tuition. She's always lied about the tuition. My breath caught. She filed a lawsuit claiming she paid your tuition? Jenna's email continued. That's her old move. She tried to do it to me, with my community college. I saw the court filing, the one for $60,000. That's a new level, even for her. The $18,000 receipt. It's fake. I know it's fake, because I know exactly where she was that week. She wasn't at the university bursar's office. She was in Missouri. She told Dad she was visiting her sick cousin for a week. She was at the Riverfront Casino, and she was losing, see attachments. I scrolled down. There were 5 attachments, all JPEG files. I clicked the first one. The image was grainy, time-stamped in the bottom corner in ugly orange digital text. OCT 14-2007. My sophomore year. It was Lena, but not the Lena I knew. Not the put-upon, weary martyr. This Lena was electric. Her hair was bigger. She was wearing a garish, sequined top. Her face was flushed, her mouth open in a manic grin, and she was feeding a $20 bill into a slot machine. The Riverfront Casino logo was clearly visible on the machine's glass. I clicked the next one, Lena, holding a bright red plastic bucket overflowing with tokens, posing by a Wheel of Fortune machine. Timestamp, OCT 15-2007. The third, Lena, at a cash-out ATM inside the casino, her back to the camera, but her reflection visible in the polished screen. Her face was no longer smiling. It was tight, angry, desperate. Timestamp, OCT 17-2007. The fourth, a close-up of a hotel bill, Riverfront Casino and Hotel. Guest, Lena Lawrence. Total charges, $2,150. Jenna's email was my only context. I didn't breathe. I was just frozen, staring at this woman I had never known. I forwarded the entire email, subject line and all, to Clara. I added no text, just sent it. My phone rang less than 30 seconds later. It was not a text. It was a call. Briella. Clara's voice was sharp, fast. Who is Lawrence? Is this real? It's my half-sister, Jenna. She's been gone for over a decade. This email, Clara said, and I could hear her clicking. The attachments, the date, October 2007. Your sophomore year. This is the week her fake receipt is from. The $18,000 receipt. She said Lena was gambling, I whispered. Briella, Clara said, her voice dropping. This is not just a piece of evidence. This is the motive. This is the entire motive. They didn't just invent the $18,000 figure for their fake receipt. It wasn't a random number. It's the amount she lost. She's been holding on to this specific $18,000 gambling loss for over a decade, and she's been trying to get it back from you, using the lie of tuition, ever since... My head was spinning. She used that number on purpose. It's a psychological anchor. Clara was pacing. I could hear it. She lost it, in her mind. The family, and by extension, you, owe it to her. She just justified it by saying it was for tuition. Briella, this is the case. This is their death blow. We need to talk to Jenna, now. We need to verify she's real, and we need to get her on the stand. Can you get her to talk to us? I fumbled back to the email. I hit reply. Jenna, it's me. It's really me. I can't believe this. Why now? Why are you helping me? I stared at the screen, at the blinking cursor. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure it could be heard in the next apartment. A new email popped up. Because I'm tired of her winning. Because she ruined my relationship with Dad. And I'm not going to sit here in Arizona and watch her ruin your life. She needs to be stopped. Arizona. She was in Arizona. My lawyer, Clara, needs to talk to you, I typed. She says this changes everything. Would you be willing to do a video call, just with us? The reply was one word, yes. 10 minutes later, I was on a three-way, secure video call with Clara Hines and a ghost. Jenna looked older. Her face was weathered by a sun I didn't recognize, and she had the same weary lines around her eyes as my father, but her gaze was steady. Ms. Lawrence? Clara started. All business. My name is Clara Hines. I am Briella's attorney. I need to know, unequivocally, that these photos and your statements are authentic. They're authentic, Jenna said, her voice raspy. She was sloppy. She always thought I was stupid. She was visiting Dad and me. This was just before I left for good. She was on her laptop, complaining about the terrible internet. She asked me to fix it. I was clearing her cache, and I saw her email. She'd accidentally forwarded me a message meant for one of her friends. What did it say? Clara asked, leaning into the camera. It wasn't just one, it was a whole chain, bragging about a small win on the slots, but complaining she was down 18 grand at the blackjack table. She was trying to get a comped room. She was furious. She said, Carl will kill me if he finds out the full amount. I'll just have to tell him I had to pay for Briella's school books. I felt the blood drain from my face. She said that. She's a black hole. Briella, Jenna said, looking at me, really looking at me, for the first time. You're just the new thing she's trying to feed. I'm sorry it took me this long to see it happening. Jenna, Clara cut in, would you be willing to testify to this? To sign a sworn affidavit? Their lawyer will attack you. He will say you are a disgruntled, estranged family member with a vendetta. He can try, Jenna said, a hard smile touching her lips. He'll lose, because I kept them. I kept everything. I knew, one day, I would need them. Kept what? I asked. Jenna's screen minimized for a second. When it returned, she was sharing a folder from her desktop. She let me keep her old laptop when she bought a new one. She thought she'd wiped it. She just deleted the trash. I backed up her entire hard drive. The folder was labeled Lena Evidence. Inside were subfolders: Casino Emails 2007, Bank Transfers, Riverfront Receipts. She didn't just send one email, Jenna said, clicking. She sent 7. Here's the hotel confirmation. Here's her player's card registration. And here is the wire transfer request from her and Dad's joint savings account to the Riverfront Casino Players Fund for $10,000 the week before she went. Clara was completely silent. She was just staring. This, Clara said finally, is not a smoking gun. This is a tactical nuclear weapon. Their lawyer, Beeman, is going to have a very bad day, Clara said, her voice bright with adrenaline. I am filing an emergency motion to admit new evidence and a new witness. He's going to object. He's going to claim fabrication. He's going to be wrong. And just as she'd predicted, Beeman filed an immediate, furious objection. This is last-minute gamesmanship by a desperate defendant. This evidence is clearly fabricated by Ms. Lawrence, a highly paid tech executive with the means to create such proof. This alleged sister is a non-entity, a ghost brought in to poison the well. Clara's response was filed an hour later. We welcome Mr. Beeman's challenge. We invite him to hire his own forensic expert. Attached is a full, unredacted report from a third-party digital forensics firm, verifying the metadata of the original JPEGs. Date of creation: October 14th, 2007. Camera model: Sony Cybershot DSC W80. The report also includes the original, verified headers from the AOL.com email servers, confirming the origin and timestamp of the messages. She wasn't done. Furthermore, Our examiner has extracted the GPS coordinates embedded in the original photo files. Latitude, 39.1062. Longitude, 94.5804. These coordinates, as Mr. Beeman can verify himself, are the exact verified center of the gaming floor at the Riverfront Casino in Missouri. Clara had not just proven the photos were real. She had proven where my mother was standing when she took them. "Now," Clara said to me over a private call, "we assemble the final package, the story we will tell the judge. We are not just refuting their claims, we are presenting a documented, provable counter-narrative of conspiracy, fraud, and extortion." She pulled up our case file. "We start with this." She hit play. It was an audio file. Trent's voice, clear as a bell, captured by the building's doorbell camera that Mr. Avery's testimony had given us standing to subpoena. 40 grand tonight, or else, and then, "You're going to regret this. One way or another, you will pay." "We have the initial threat," Clara said, ticking off her fingers. "We have the physical escalation with the spray paint and the police report. We have Mr. Avery, a completely neutral third party, confirming the threat. We have the fraudulent lawsuit for $60,000. We have their fake receipt. We have the court-ordered psychological report proving you are not only sane, but in the superior range." "And now," she said, her voice dropping, "we have Jenna. We have the motive. The $18,000 gambling debt she's been trying to cover for over a decade. The origin story of their entire financial lie. All the pieces snapped together. The chaos of the past few weeks resolved into a single, ugly, and perfectly clear picture. This was never about a retirement dream. It was never about family support. It was never even about the $40,000 for Trent. It was about the $18,000 Lena lost at a blackjack table in 2007. "It's over," I whispered. "Nay." "No," Clara said, "it's not over, but when we walk into that courtroom on Monday, it will be, we are not just asking for the expanded restraining order anymore. We are asking for sanctions against them and their lawyer for filing a fraudulent claim. We are asking for our attorney's fees. We are not just going to win. Briella, we are going to make them pay." My legal case was a fortress. Jenna's evidence, the GPS-verified photos, the decade-old emails detailing the $18,000 gambling loss had made it impenetrable, but my professional life was still a battlefield. The poison Trent and Lena had injected into Blue Arc, the rumors of instability, the anonymous email about me being unfit, was still lingering. Clara had secured the legal front. I had to secure the corporate one. I requested a meeting for the Friday before the final court hearing. Just Victor, Maria from HR, and me. When I logged into the video call, Clara joined with me, not as my personal lawyer, but as consulting counsel for Ms. Lawrence. It was a subtle, brutal signal. I was not coming to this meeting as a victim. I was coming as a director, fully armed. "Victor, Maria," I began, my voice even. I shared my screen. "I want to thank you both for the company's internal support over the last few weeks. It has been invaluable, but you have only seen the defensive side. You've been swatting down rumors. I feel it's my duty as a director to show you the full, offensive case." I didn't give them an emotional story. I gave them a business presentation. I presented my timeline document, the same one I'd built for Clara. It was no longer a spreadsheet of fear. It was a risk assessment portfolio. "This was never a family dispute," I said, clicking to the next slide, which showed the pay or else photo. "It is a criminal extortion attempt. The threat was made. The vandalism occurred. The police report is filed." I clicked again. A fraudulent lawsuit for $60,000 was filed against me. The primary evidence they submitted was this fabricated tuition receipt. I clicked again. This is the forensic analysis proving the receipt's metadata is fraudulent, and this is the motive. The last slide was a split screen. On one side, Lena's fake, tear-stained GoFundMe page. On the other, the high-resolution, GPS-verified photo of her grinning at a slot machine at the Riverfront Casino. Time-stamped to the exact week she claimed she was paying my tuition. "This is not," I said, my voice dropping, "a woman paying for her daughter's education. This is a woman trying to recoup an $18,000 gambling debt from 2007. This is the entire basis for their campaign." Victor, a man who lived for data, just stared at the screen. Maria's hand was over her mouth. "They attacked me," I continued. "And when I held my ground, they attacked my livelihood. They attacked this company. They used our servers to spread libel. They tagged our brand in their threats. They tried to destabilize a key executive. They tried to make you believe I was unfit to manage my team." Victor leaned forward, his face hard. "What do you want, Briella?" "I've been in a defensive posture, just like the company," I said. "I'm done with that. I am asking Blue Arc to officially move from reacting to acting. They attacked one of your assets. I am asking for the company's protection. I want an official statement from Blue Arc, attributable to the company, that we can have ready. A statement that says Blue Arc stands by its employees, that we protect our people from external harassment, and that we have reviewed the case and found my conduct to be exemplary." "That's a big ask, Briella," Maria said, looking at Victor. "It is," I agreed. "And it's not just for me. It's for our clients." Victor's eyes snapped to mine. I had his full attention. "We have a problem," Victor said, his tone all business. "Genesis Solutions. Mark Ellison called me. He's nervous. He heard noise. He's worried about the stability of the leadership on his account." "Genesis, my biggest account, our flagship project for the next quarter." My stomach turned to ice. They weren't just attacking me, they were attacking my work. "He didn't use the word unfit?" I asked. "He didn't have to," Victor said. "He's worried about his Q1 launch. I tried to smooth it over, but I think you're the only one who can fix this. You need to call him." It was a test, the real one. Dr. Patel's evaluation was a quiz. This was the final exam. "Set it up," I said. "Today." 2 hours later, I was on a one-on-one call with Mark Ellison. "Briella," he said, his voice professional but cool. "Thanks for making the time. Look, I'll be blunt. We've got a lot riding on this launch, and I'm hearing some concerning things." I took a breath. I was not the victim. I was not the daughter. I was the director. "Mark, I'm glad you brought it up. I wanted to call you directly. I value our partnership, and you deserve transparency. I am currently, and have been, the target of a malicious criminal harassment campaign from estranged family members. It is an extortion attempt. It has involved police reports, fabricated documents, and libel." I let that hang in the air. I had not used the words family squabble. I had used criminal harassment and extortion. "I am telling you this," I continued, my voice warming, "because I want to assure you of 2 things. 1, the matter is being handled by my attorneys and the police, and it is being won, unequivocally. 2, it has not, for 1 second, impacted my work on your launch. In fact, I was just reviewing the final projections for the new ad copy. We are on track for a 7% increase in conversions over the initial estimates. I can send you the analysis right after this call." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I didn't speak. I let the silence work. 7%? He finally said. "At least," I replied. "The creative is performing above the benchmark. This external noise is just that. Noise. It's not the work. The work is solid." I heard him let out a long breath. The tension broke. "Briella," he said, and his voice was completely different, full of the warmth I was used to. "That is exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you for being candid. I am deeply sorry you're dealing with this. Now, yes, please send me those projections, and let's get our pre-launch dinner on the calendar. My treat." I hung up the phone. I had not just saved the account, I had strengthened it. I immediately sent a message to Victor. "Genesis is secure. Mark is happy. We're booking a celebratory dinner. The reply came in 10 seconds. Well done, Director. The win with Genesis was the catalyst. The company's posture, which had been defensively supportive, became aggressively protective. The first change, an email from IT. At the request of corporate counsel, we are implementing a new enterprise-wide spam and harassment filter. All emails from anonymous or unverified domains will now be blocked and routed to a security quarantine. The pipeline of poison. The concerned employee emails was severed at the root. The second change, a Slack message from Sawyer, the one who had hit reply all. Hey, Briella, this is super awkward. I just read the new IT memo and the old HR memo again. I had no idea of the scale of this. I thought I was helping, and I was just being an idiot and spreading it. I am so sorry. I already told Maria, but I want to tell you, I will be happy to sign an affidavit, testify in court, whatever you need, to state that the unfit rumor came from an external email and that you were the target, not the cause. I'm just really sorry. I stared at the message. My first instinct was to be angry, but I was too tired for that. He was just a pawn in their game. Thank you, Sawyer, I typed back. I appreciate you saying that. I know your intention was good. We're all good. Now, can you send me the final mock-ups for the Genesis banner? Mark wants to see them. On it, boss, he replied, the relief palpable even through the text. The final piece landed on Friday afternoon. Victor held his weekly all-hands marketing meeting. I was just another square on the grid, my primer gray door visible behind me. Before we get to the quarterly numbers, Victor said, his voice commanding the attention of all 60 people on the call, I need to address an internal matter. As some of you know, one of our leaders, Briella Lawrence, has been the subject of a vicious criminal campaign of harassment and libel. The entire call went dead silent. This company does not tolerate that. We protect our people. I want to be unequivocally clear to every single person on this team. Briella has the full, unconditional backing of Blue Arc, our legal department, and me personally. He looked directly into his camera. While navigating a situation that would have broken most people, she not only performed her duties, she excelled. She saved our largest client, Genesis, and finalized a media buy that is projecting to be our most successful of the year. That is leadership. He paused. The results are what speak. The results are the only thing that matters. The rest is just noise. To that end, he continued, we are allowing Briella to work remotely until this legal matter is fully concluded next week. This is a strategic move to allow her to focus. We look forward to her full-time return to the office, which, I am happy to announce, will be as our new Vice President of Marketing. My world stopped. VP. My Slack notifications exploded, a cascade of congratulations. Yes, Briella. VP! He hadn't just defended me. He hadn't just protected me. He had promoted me. I logged off the call, my mind a blank, high-pitched ringing. I was safe. I was more than safe. I was valued. I was believed. I sat on my sofa. I waited for the tears. They didn't come. It was too much. The tears came the next day. A courier arrived. It was an inter-office package. Inside, there was no paperwork. It was a simple, cream-colored card. I opened it. Inside, in dozens of different handwritings, were messages from my team, from Sawyer, from people in design, from people in accounting. We've got your back. VP, you're stronger than rumors. Go get 'em on Monday. We're all cheering for you. This team stands with Briella. It was this small, simple gesture. This was the kindness that finally broke the dam. I sat there, holding a piece of cardstock, and I wept, not from fear, not from anger. It was relief. It was the crushing, profound, overwhelming relief of being seen, of being believed. My blood family had tried to destroy me, my work family. This chosen, professional family had closed ranks and protected me. The cry was short, cleansing. When I was done, I washed my face, I made a cup of tea, and I waited. On Sunday night, the final email from Clara arrived. Briella, the text said. Attached is the final argument, the complete package. Read it. Sign the last page. This is the truth. It was a single 247-page PDF. It was my life, itemized, the timeline, the police report on the vandalism, the high-resolution photo of Pay or Else, the audio file from the doorbell cam of Trent's threat, the bank statements, my original scholarship letter from the safe deposit box, Dr. Patel's full, glowing psychological report, the forensic teardown of the fake receipt, and the final, devastating exhibits, Jenna's affidavit, the wire transfers to the casino, and the GPS-verified photos of Lena at the slot machine. At the very end was the signature page, a motion to dismiss their suit, a motion for sanctions for filing a fraudulent claim, and a request for the full payment of my attorney's fees. Clara called me as I was reading it. It's all there, Briella. We didn't just counter their lies. We built a cage for them, using only their own facts, their own greed. Her voice was low, satisfied. We are not going to court tomorrow to ask them to stop, she said. We are going to court to end them. I printed the signature page. My hand, which had been shaking for weeks, was rock steady. I signed my name, Briella Lawrence. I scanned it. I sent it back to her. It's time, I whispered to the empty room. I was ready. The Wake County Courthouse was colder than I expected. The air was heavy, smelling of old floor wax and stale coffee, a beige and brown room designed to be forgettable. It was the last place you would expect a life to be decided, but that was what the gray morning light promised. We sat at the defendant's table. Me, in the gray blazer I had worn for Dr. Patel's evaluation, my armor, Clara, next to me, was a picture of calm, controlled energy. Her files were arranged in 3 small, precise stacks. Across the aisle, they sat. The plaintiffs, Lena, my mother, was dressed in a conservative black dress, a lace handkerchief clutched in her hand, already dabbing at a dry eye. She was performing the role of the grieving, abandoned matriarch. Carl, my father, was a ghost beside her, staring at the floor, shrunken into his suit, and Trent was a live wire. He was vibrating, his leg bouncing under the table, his eyes, bloodshot and frantic, darting from the bailiff to the judge to me. Their lawyer, Beeman, looked like he hadn't slept. He had seen Clara's final evidence packet, the one containing Jenna's testimony and the casino photos. He knew what was waiting for him. All rise, the clerk said. We rose. Judge Grant entered, a small, imposing woman with iron-gray hair and an expression of profound, permanent impatience. She sat. We sat. We are hearing docket 349B, Lawrence versus Lawrence, Judge Grant said, her voice like gravel. This is the consolidated hearing for the plaintiff's motion for familial support and the defendant's motions for dismissal, sanctions, and a permanent order of protection. Am I clear? Good. Ms. Hines, you're the defendant. You may as well start. Why should I not grant the plaintiff's request for support? Clara stood. She moved to the lectern, but she did not use it. She stood in the open space, her voice filling the room, sharp and clean. Your Honor, thank you. My name is Clara Hines, representing the defendant, Ms. Briella Lawrence. She turned slightly to look at the plaintiff's table. The lawsuit filed by Lena and Carl Lawrence for $60,000 is not a good faith claim for familial support. It is not a family dispute. She paused, letting the words land. It is the final desperate act in a coordinated criminal campaign of extortion, libel, and terroristic threats. Beeman shot to his feet, rattling his papers. Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is using inflammatory language. She's characterizing. Judge Grant held up a single hand, not even looking at him. Sit down, Mr. Beeman. This is a bench trial. I am not a jury of impressionable simpletons. She can characterize all she wants. It's her opening. Proceed, Ms. Hines, but you had better have the evidence to back up a claim like extortion. I do, Your Honor, Clara said, her voice dropping. In fact, I have nothing but evidence. The atmosphere in the room shifted. This was not a hearing. This was a hunt. The plaintiff's case, Clara continued, rests on the idea that they are a loving, elderly couple who have been abandoned. The truth is that this is a shakedown, and it began on November 10th, at approximately 7:05 p.m., when the plaintiffs, in direct violation of a pre-existing restraining order, appeared at my client's apartment. Clara nodded to the clerk. We have submitted, as Exhibit A, the audio from the building's doorbell camera, subpoenaed with the help of a witness. I'd like to play the last 30 seconds. The clerk pressed a button. The courtroom was filled with a hollow, echoing sound. Pound, 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 the sound of a fist on a door. Then, a voice, unmistakable. Trent, open the door. The family needs money, right now. A murmur of other voices. Then, the voice again, low and hissing. 40 grand tonight, or else, you're going to regret this. One way or another, you will pay. The audio clicked off. The silence was absolute. Trent had stopped bouncing. He looked like he'd been struck. Lena closed her eyes, the picture of suffering. That, Clara said, was the initial demand, $40,000. Or else, when my client, a single woman in her own home, refused to pay this extortion, they escalated. They launched a smear campaign, which is still active, to have her declared mentally unfit in an attempt to seize her assets. This included an email sent by the plaintiff, Trent Lawrence, to my client's employer, Blue Arc Dynamics. Objection, Beeman said, weakly. No proof. We have proof, Clara said, not missing a beat. We have the trace logs from Blue Arc's IT security and a sworn affidavit from Mr. Al-Jamil, the overnight manager of the Quick Stop Net and Print in Raleigh, who confirms Mr. Lawrence was at Terminal 12 at 9:07 p.m., the exact moment the libelous email was sent. Mr. Lawrence is not a technical genius. He paid with his own debit card. Judge Grant was taking notes, her pen scratching across a yellow legal pad. This brings us to the lawsuit itself, Clara said. The $60,000 claim, the centerpiece of their financial argument, is a single document, a receipt claiming they paid $18,000 for my client's sophomore tuition. Lena, on cue, dabbed her handkerchief at her eye. A receipt, Clara continued, which our forensics expert, in Exhibit C, has already proven to be a fabrication. The fonts are wrong, the logo is pixelated, and the metadata shows it was created on a home scanner 2 days before they filed their suit. But the number, Your Honor, Clara said, is the most important part. $18,000? Why that specific, fictional number? I'd like to call our next witness, via secure video. The large monitor to the judge's left flickered on. Jenna's face, clear and steady from Arizona, filled the screen. Please state your name, Clara said. Jenna Lawrence? And how are you related to the plaintiffs? Carl Lawrence is my father. Lena Lawrence is my stepmother. Lena's head snapped up. She was staring at the screen, her mouth open, her grieving mother mask shattering, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated hatred. Jenna, Clara said, I want to direct your attention to the week of October 14th, 2007. The week Lena Lawrence claims she was paying $18,000 for Briella's tuition. She wasn't, Jenna said, her voice clear. I know she wasn't. She was in Missouri. She had told my father she was visiting a sick cousin. She was actually at the Riverfront Casino. She was there for 5 days, and she lost, by her own admission in an email, 18 grand at the blackjack tables. She told her friend she'd have to tell Dad she'd spent it on Briella's books. She's a liar, Lena shrieked, shooting to her feet, the handkerchief forgotten. She's a vindictive, horrible girl who ran away. She's... Mrs. Lawrence. Judge Grant's voice was a hammer blow. Sit down, now. You are in a court of law. One more outburst like that, and I will have the bailiff remove you, and you will be held in contempt. Do you understand me? Lena, her face a mask of puce-colored rage, sat. The performance was over. The truth was out. "Thank you, Jenna," Clara said. "That's all." The screen went blank. "And finally, Your Honor," Clara said, stacking her papers, "the plaintiff's entire case for guardianship and support rested on the claim that my client is mentally unstable. They petitioned this very court to have her declared unfit. You, wisely, ordered an independent evaluation." Clara picked up the last, slim, bound document. She walked it to the judge's bench. "This is the report from Dr. Aris Patel. After a 5-hour evaluation, the conclusion is unambiguous. My client is fully and capably in command of her faculties. In fact, Dr. Patel found her to be in the superior range of executive function. He did not find a paranoid, unstable woman. He found, and I quote, a rational actor being subjected to a textbook campaign of harassment and extortion." Clara walked back to the lectern. "Their case is a lie. Their evidence is a fabrication. Their motive is to cover a decade-old gambling debt, and their primary strategy was to libel my client, vandalize her home, and attempt to have her declared legally insane. We ask for a full dismissal, with prejudice. We ask for sanctions against the plaintiffs and their counsel for filing a fraudulent, frivolous, and malicious lawsuit, and we ask that they be ordered to pay 100% of my client's legal fees." Clara sat down. The silence in the room was a physical weight. Judge Grant looked at Mr. Beeman. "Well, counsel, that's quite an opening. Do you have anything at all to counter that?" Beeman stood up. He was sweating. He looked at his files, at his clients. He had nothing. His fabricated receipt was dead. His claim of instability was dead. His clients had been exposed, in 10 minutes, as liars and extortionists. Your Honor," he stammered. This is all character assassination. It's technicalities, metadata, IPs. This isn't about facts. It's about family. It's about emotion." He fumbled in his briefcase and pulled out a thin, pink-bound book, a cheap diary. "This," he said, holding it aloft, "is my client's emotional diary, Lena Lawrence's private thoughts. It details the heartbreak of being abandoned by her daughter, the pain she feels, the agony of—" Clara stood up, but she didn't object. She just smiled. "I'm glad Mr. Beeman brought up that diary. Your Honor." Beeman froze. This was not the reaction he expected. "We subpoenaed all digital records pertaining to this case," Clara said, her voice dangerously light. "The plaintiffs forgot to turn over the source file for this diary, which my expert found on Mrs. Lawrence's hard drive. It's a Microsoft Word document, and the metadata shows it was created 72 hours ago, on Thursday, the night before this hearing. The file is literally named Fake Diary for Court Docs." The courtroom was silent. Beeman froze, his arms still in the air, holding the pink book. He looked at Lena, his eyes wide with betrayal. She had lied to him. Judge Grant slowly, deliberately, removed her reading glasses. She stared at Lena. "Mr. Beeman," Judge Grant said, her voice so quiet, it was terrifying. "Are you telling me you just tried to submit a fraudulent, backdated, emotional diary into my court? A file literally named Fake Diary?" I was unaware, Your Honor," Beeman stammered, dropping the book on the table as if it were on fire. "I was just—" "That's enough," Grant said. "Emotions do not excuse fraud. Mrs. Lawrence, this is a court of law, not a daytime television show." That was the moment. The final, definitive snap. Trent, who had been simmering, watching his last chance at money evaporate, finally boiled over. He slammed both hands on the plaintiff's table, rattling the plastic water cups. He shot to his feet, his face a dark, congested purple. He pointed, not at me, not at Clara, but at Lena. "This is insane!" he screamed, his voice cracking. "I told you this was stupid. The diary, the lawsuit, all this crap. I told you to just ask her. I only needed 20 grand. 20. We could have just taken the 20. You've ruined everything. The room froze. Every single person in the court, the clerk, the stenographer, the judge, turned to look at him. I only needed 20K. It was not a threat. It was not an allegation. It was a confession, a public, on-the-record admission of the entire motive. He had just admitted, in front of a sitting judge, that the lawsuit, the harassment, the lies, all of it, was just a convoluted, failed scheme to get him $20,000. A large bailiff, who had been standing impassively by the wall, took 2 silent, gliding steps. He placed a heavy hand on Trent's shoulder. "Sit down, son," the bailiff said, his voice a low, unimpressed rumble. Trent looked at the hand, at the bailiff's impassive face, and all the fight, all the manic energy, drained out of him. He collapsed back into his chair, his rage vanishing, replaced by the sudden, blank, absolute terror of a child who has just been caught. The courtroom was perfectly, absolutely silent. Clara Hines slowly, meticulously, began to place her 3 small stacks of paper back into her briefcase. She didn't look at them. She just looked at Judge Grant. The trap hadn't just been sprung. My family had walked in, locked the door, and swallowed the key. Trent's confession, "I only needed 20K, was still hanging in the air. A physical, toxic cloud. The bailiff's hand was still on his shoulder. Beeman, their lawyer, looked like he was about to be physically ill. He was staring at the pink fake diary on his table as if it were a dead animal. Judge Grant put her glasses back on. She looked at Trent, her face a mask of profound judicial disgust. "Mr. Lawrence, you have just, in open court, admitted to the financial motive behind what Ms. Hines has characterized as an extortion campaign. Do you understand that?" Trent just stared, his mouth open, his skin pale and clammy. He's upset, Your Honor," Beeman stammered, trying to stand, to regain control. "He's passionate. He didn't mean—" "Oh, I think he meant it. Counsel," Judge Grant said. Clara, who had remained standing, took a half step forward. She wasn't smiling. She was a finisher. "Your Honor, Mr. Lawrence's outburst is illuminating, but it is not, by far, the end of this family's history of fraudulent and criminal behavior. His admission to needing 20K pales in comparison to their past actions." "What are you talking about?" Beeman asked, his voice cracking. "There is nothing else." "Mr. Beeman, you really should have done your due diligence," Clara said, her voice dripping ice. "Did you ever run a full credit check on your own clients? Or, more to the point, on my client, but for the year 2018. She pulled a new document from her case. "This, Your Honor, is a loan agreement from a predatory lender called Quick Cash Advance, dated June 2018. It is a payday loan for $5,000 at an annual percentage rate of 310%. It was taken out using my client's full name, her date of birth, and her social security number." I felt my blood run cold. I had never heard of this. "My client never saw a dime of this money," Clara said, handing the document to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. "Because she never signed it. That signature, as you can see, is a poor forgery. We have, as Exhibit J, a certification from a forensic handwriting expert confirming it does not match Ms. Lawrence's known signature. The loan defaulted, of course, and was sent to collections, where it did catastrophic damage to my client's credit for 3 years, until she discovered it and spent a year fighting to have it removed." "Objection," Beeman yelled. "This is from 2018. It's irrelevant. It's prejudicial." "It is deeply relevant, Your Honor," Clara countered, "because the IP address on the digital loan application, which we subpoenaed, tracks back to the public library in Raleigh, the same library where, our records show, Lila Lawrence was a volunteer literacy tutor. Furthermore," Clara continued, "the bank account the $5,000 was wired to does not belong to my client. It is a joint savings account in the names of Lena and Carl Lawrence, This wasn't a one-time mistake in 2025. This is a pattern. This is identity theft. This is wire fraud. They have been stealing from my client, using her identity, for years. I looked at Lena. Her face was no longer angry. It was blank. It was the face of a sociopath who had been caught and was simply rebooting, trying to find a new script. Carl, my father, he was weeping, not loud, just silent, hot tears running into his lap. This campaign of terror, Clara said, her voice rising, did not just stay in the digital realm. We have the vandalism to my client's door, the pay or else message, the police report. And while the spray paint can has not been recovered, Clara said, we did subpoena the cell tower data for Mr. Trent Lawrence's phone for the night of the incident, from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., and as Exhibit K will show, his phone was not at his home. It was pinging the cell tower that services a one-block radius. The only block that tower services is the block Maple Row Apartments is on. Trent just sank lower in his chair, a look of dull, stupid surprise on his face. He never thought to turn off his phone. We have the GoFundMe, Clara said, moving faster now, a prosecutor laying out an unassailable case. The one where Lena Lawrence claimed medical bankruptcy, the one that, as our digital expert confirmed, was linked to a prepaid virtual credit card, a card that was registered using only one piece of identifying information, the email address, lenalaw1965 gmail.com. The room was silent. And now, Clara said, turning to my father, we come to the retirement dream, the RV. Carl flinched, as if she had struck him. Mr. Lawrence, Clara said, and her voice was not unkind. It was just factual. Mr. Carl Lawrence, this entire lawsuit, your name is on it. The $60,000 demand. You sat there. You signed the petition. You let your wife and your son use you as a prop, as a sickly father needing a retirement dream. Is that true, Mr. Lawrence? Was any of this ever about an RV? Carl looked up. His eyes met mine. They were red, hollow, and full of a shame so profound it was almost a physical presence. Beeman was on his feet. Your Honor, she cannot address my client. This is not a cross-examination. Sit down, counsel, Judge Grant said, her eyes fixed on my father. I, for one, would like to hear the answer. Mr. Lawrence? Was this about an RV? Carl looked at Lena. She was staring at him, her eyes dead, her message clear. Be silent. He looked at Trent, who was just a puddle of defeated misery, and then he looked at me. No, he whispered. His voice was so quiet. The stenographer had to ask him to repeat it. No, he said, louder this time, his voice cracking. There's no RV. There was never going to be an RV. Then why, Mr. Lawrence? Judge Grant asked, her voice gentle. Why are you here? Why did you sue your daughter for $60,000? Carl took a ragged, sobbing breath. For him, he said, and he pointed, a shaking finger, at Trent. It was all for him, his debts, the online people. He said they'd break his legs. He said he owed 40, and then he said he needed 60 to get out. And Lena said Briella had the money. She said it was easy. She said it was a rounding error for her. She said it was. She said Briella owed us. He dropped his head into his hands. We just wanted to help our son. The confession was complete. The conspiracy, the lies, the RV, all of it had just been unraveled by the weakest link. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence, Clara said, her voice devoid of triumph. Your Honor, we have one final witness, Mr. Avery. Mr. Avery, dressed in his Sunday best, a neat, pale blue suit, walked slowly to the witness stand. He was sworn in. Mr. Avery, Clara said, you are Ms. Lawrence's neighbor? I am, he said. his voice frail but clear. Apartment 12B, a fine young woman. And were you present? In the hallway. On the evening of November 10th? I was, he said. I heard a terrible commotion, shouting, banging on the door. It was very late. For me, past 7. And what did you hear? Mr. Avery? I heard that young man, he said, pointing directly at Trent. Demand money. He was very loud. He said, 40 grand. He said it clear as day, and then, when the poor girl wouldn't open the door, he threatened her. I heard it. He said, pay or else. Thank you, Mr. Avery, Clara said. No further questions. Judge Grant looked at Beeman. Counsel, do you wish to cross-examine this 90-year-old man? Beeman just shook his head, looking down. No, Your Honor. Mr. Avery was helped down from the stand. As he passed my table, he paused and gave me a small, firm nod. Your Honor, Clara said, turning to the large monitor, I believe that concludes the matter, but for the sake of clarity, I have prepared a timeline, a single slide that summarizes the plaintiff's campaign against my client. She clicked a button. The monitor that had shown Jenna's face now lit up with a simple, brutal infographic. It was a flowchart. It started at the top. OCT 2007. L. Lawrence incurs $18,000 gambling debt. An arrow pointed down. June 2018. L. Lawrence commits identity theft. Forges payday loan with B. Lawrence's SSN. An arrow pointed down. NOV 10, 2025. B. Lawrence promoted. Salary $280,000. This box split into two. Simultaneous arrows. One arrow. NOV 10. PM. T. Lawrence. L. Lawrence. C. Lawrence. Appear at apartment. Violate restraining order. Demand 40 grand or else. The other arrow. NOV 11. T. Lawrence sends libelous email to Blue Arc from Quick Stop Net and Print. The arrows converged. NOV 12. Pay or else. Vandalism. Cell tower. Data places. T. Lawrence at scene. NOV 13. Fraudulent familial support. Lawsuit filed. Fake $18,000 tuition receipt submitted as evidence. NOV 14. Petition for emergency guardianship. Attempt to have B. Lawrence declared mentally unfit. The timeline ended at the bottom, in a large, red box. Verdict: a failed campaign of extortion, fraud, perjury, and libel. As you can see, Your Honor, Clara said, this was never about family. It was about money. It was about a gambling debt. It was about a lifetime of entitlement and fraud. And when they were denied, they tried to destroy my client's life, her reputation, her sanity, and her career. She clicked again, and a new document appeared, a simple letter, on Blue Arc Dynamics letterhead. This, Clara said, was sent to the court this morning. It is a letter from my client's employer, confirming that, in the midst of this campaign of terror, she not only met her responsibilities but exceeded them, landing her in the top percentile of all key performance indicators for the quarter. They have not only stood by her, they have just promoted her to vice president. The final nail. Lena had been silent, catatonic, since Jenna's testimony, but this news of the promotion, the success, the final, undeniable proof that I had escaped her orbit and was now in a world she could not touch. This broke her. She surged to her feet, her chair scraping, her face a terrifying mask of rage. "We are her parents!" she screamed, her voice tearing the silence. "Her parents! You sit there. You judge. We gave her life. We raised her. We fed her. What she has is ours. That money is ours." Judge Grant hit her gavel, once, twice. "Mrs. Lawrence, you will be silent or you will be removed. Bailiff." The law doesn't care. Lena was weeping now, but they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of pure, impotent fury. "She owes us. She owes us." "Mrs. Lawrence," Judge Grant said, her voice cutting through the hysteria, cold as a scalpel. Sit down. The law has no exception for blood. You do not get to commit felonies and then claim family as a defense. You are not her parent in this room. You are the plaintiff in a fraudulent, malicious, and frankly, pathetic lawsuit. Lena collapsed into her chair, a string-cut puppet. I looked at her. I had waited for this moment. I had fantasized about it. The moment she was finally, truly, publicly beaten. I expected to feel triumph. I expected to feel rage, or joy, or a burning, righteous vindictiveness. I felt nothing. The woman in the chair was a stranger, a small, pathetic, grasping person who had built her entire life on lies. And the lies had just been taken away. There was nothing left. I was not angry. I was just empty. The space she had taken up in my head, in my heart, for 34 years, had just evaporated. There was only a void. Trent had his head bowed, his hair hanging over his face. He knew he had lost. Clara stood one last time. Your Honor, based on the confessions of Mr. Carl Lawrence and Mr. Trent Lawrence in this courtroom, the felony fraud of the plaintiffs, and the overwhelming evidence, we ask for an immediate summary dismissal of their suit. We ask that the expanded 500-foot no-contact order be made permanent for all three plaintiffs. We ask that you order them to pay my client's legal fees in the full amount of $25,000, and we ask that you refer the evidence of identity theft, wire fraud, and perjury, specifically the 2018 loan and the fabricated diary, to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Prosecution. Beeman tried to stand. Your Honor, $25,000. That's punitive. They can't. Mr. Beeman, Judge Grant said. Raising her hand, she looked from Clara, to me, from Beeman, to my family. Enough, she closed the file. I have heard enough. Judge Grant's enough hung in the air, a physical, heavy thing. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. It was the sound of a 3-decade-long con collapsing in on itself. Judge Grant was not looking at my family. She was looking at her notes, her pen moving with a sharp, definitive scratch. She had removed her glasses, and her eyes were cold and clear. Lena was frozen. Her face, which had been contorted in a mask of shrieking rage, was now just slack. It was the blank, baffled expression of a monster that had just been shot. Carl was a non-entity, a crumpled gray suit, his face still buried in his hands. Trent, his outburst over, was staring at the bailiff's hand on his shoulder, his eyes wide and vacant with dawning, animal terror. I have reviewed the entirety of the evidence, Judge Grant said, her voice cutting through the stillness. I have heard the testimony. I have seen the fabricated evidence. I have seen the forensic analysis of the fraudulent loan from 2018, and I have, most damningly, heard the in-court confessions from 2 of the 3 plaintiffs. She looked up, her gaze finally landing, with withering force, on the plaintiff's table. This is not a case of familial support. This is a case of parasitic, generational greed. It is, without question, the single most malicious, frivolous, and transparently fraudulent lawsuit I have had the displeasure of presiding over in my 12 years on this bench. Beeman, their lawyer, looked like he had been hollowed out. He was a shell. He tried to speak, a small squeak escaping him. Your Honor, my clients. Your clients are lucky I'm not having you disbarred on the spot for attempting to submit a document literally titled Fake Diary for Court Docs into my evidence. Mr. Beeman, Judge Grant snapped, not raising her voice. You will be silent. My ruling is as follows, she continued, her voice a flat, legal hammer. First, the plaintiff's petition for familial support is dismissed, with extreme prejudice, the plaintiff's concurrent, and frankly, insulting. Petition for emergency guardianship is also dismissed, with prejudice. The court finds the defendant, Briella Lawrence, to be not only fit, but, as Dr. Patel noted, possessed of superior judgment for her handling of this campaign of terror. I let out a breath. It was a ragged, shuddering gasp, the sound of a pressure valve releasing after a lifetime. It was over. The primary threat was gone. Second, Judge Grant said, the defendant's motion for sanctions and legal fees, Ms. Hines, you requested $25,000. I did, Your Honor, Clara said, her voice placid. This court finds that amount to be insufficient, the judge said, a flicker of something almost human in her eyes. This was not a simple defense. This was an investigation. This was the uncovering of a multi-year, multi-state conspiracy, the legal work to document this level of fraud, all while fending off an active harassment campaign, is extensive. This court finds that Ms. Lawrence is entitled to the full cost of her defense. The plaintiffs, Lena, Carl, and Trent Lawrence, will be held jointly and severally liable for her legal fees. I am amending the award. You will pay Ms. Lawrence's fees in the amount of $41,550. A sound, a high, thin, whistling sound. It was Lena. She had just realized. She had not just lost the $60,000 she was demanding. She now owed $41,000 she did not have. The math, brutal and final, hit her. Third, the judge continued, ignoring the sound, the defendant's motion for an expanded order of protection. Granted, a permanent no-contact order is hereby issued, effective immediately, for a period of 5 years. 5 years, not 6 months. 5 years. It was a wall. It was a future. This order, she read, her voice a monotone, forbids Lena Lawrence, Carl Lawrence, and Trent Lawrence from coming within 500 feet of Ms. Briella Lawrence, her residence at the Maple Row apartment complex, or her place of business, Blue Arc Dynamics. It forbids any and all contact, electronic, telephonic, written, or contact through any third party. Any verified violation of this order will result in immediate and mandatory arrest. And that, Judge Grant said, her gaze shifting, landing like a physical weight on my brother, brings me to my final point. Trent, who had been a ghost, flinched. Mr. Trenton Lawrence, the judge said, you have sat in this courtroom as a plaintiff while in active, knowing violation of a pre-existing restraining order. You have, by your own admission, been the financial beneficiary of this conspiracy. You have, by the evidence of cell tower data, committed felony vandalism, and you have, by your own, screamed confession, confirmed the entire extortionate motive. She paused. Therefore, this court finds that this is no longer just a civil matter. She turned to the clerk. I am referring the entirety of this case file. The evidence of the 2018 identity theft, the wire fraud on the payday loan, the fabrication of evidence in this trial, the felony vandalism, and the conspiracy to commit extortion, to the Wake County District Attorney's Office. I am doing so with my strongest personal recommendation for criminal prosecution against all 3 plaintiffs. A strangled sob came from my father, not a wail, just the sound of a man drowning. But we do not have to wait for the district attorney on all matters, Judge Grant said, her eyes still locked on Trent. Bailiff? The bailiff's hand, which had been resting benignly on Trent's shoulder, clamped down like a steel vice. Trenton Lawrence, the bailiff's voice rumbled, loud in the small room. You are in contempt of court for the violation of a valid protective order, committed in the presence of this court. You are to be taken into custody. Please stand. The bailiff pulled. Trent, who was not a small man, was hauled to his feet as if he were a child. He was boneless with shock. No, Lena whispered. She wasn't wailing. She was just surprised. This was not in her script. The bailiff, with a single, brutally efficient motion, spun Trent around and slammed his hands against the table, the sound of the handcuffs. Click, click, chick. It was the loudest, most beautiful, most final sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of a door slamming, of a cage being locked. Mama? Trent whimpered, the one word of a child. his voice high and thin. "Mama, do something. Tell them." Lena just stared at him, her face completely, utterly blank. The sociopath's mask was off, and there was nothing underneath. "Carl," she hissed, turning to my father. "Do something." But Carl just wept, his shoulders shaking, a broken, empty man, finally paying the price for his weakness. "Move," the bailiff said, pulling Trent toward the side door. Trent was gone. The door clicked shut. "This," Judge Grant said into the ringing, profound silence, "is the consequence. This is the price of your actions. This is the law. We are adjourned." Her gavel cracked. Bam! It was over. She swept from the room. The clerks began to move, their faces impassive. Beeman, their lawyer, was stuffing papers into his bag, his face slick with sweat. He didn't look at his clients. He just ran. He left them there, alone. Lena, a stone statue of rage. Carl, a puddle of a man. I sat. Just sat. I could not feel my hands. My ears were ringing. Clara slowly, meticulously, began to place her 3 small stacks of paper back into her briefcase. She snapped the latches. A final, sharp click-clack. She turned to me. Her face, which had been a mask of focused legal fire, finally softened. A small, bright, terrifying smile touched her lips. "Justice doesn't always knock, Briella," she said, her voice low. "Sometimes it slams." A sound I didn't recognize came out of my throat. It was a laugh. It was a sob. It was a new, rusty sound. "You," I said, my voice thick, "were unbelievable. Thank you." "They," she countered, "were stupid. It's a fatal combination. Come on. Let's get you out of here." I stood. My legs were shaky, but they held. I did not look back. I did not give them the dignity of one last glance. I would never, ever see them again. I just walked, following Clara, out of the courtroom, into the wide, empty hallway. The air in the hallway felt different, thinner, easier to breathe. I had walked in a defendant. I was walking out. Just me. Clara stopped me by the large, dusty window. "Your phone," she said. "You should probably turn it back on. You have a new life to start." I had forgotten it. I'd turned it off completely. I pulled it from my blazer pocket. I held the button. The screen lit up. And the world, my new world, came rushing in. It vibrated. Once, twice, a cascade of notifications. Ding. The first one that came through was a text message. From Victor. "Briella, I just got the alert from Clara's paralegal. It's done. Congratulations." A second text. A second later. "Congratulations. The board held their final vote while you were in court. The promotion to VP is official. Your new salary is $305,000. See you Monday. Boss. VP 305. I stared at the words. He hadn't just stood by me. He had promoted me. The work, in the end, had been the only truth that mattered. Clara was watching me, a small, knowing smile on her face. "There's this, too," she said. She reached into her other briefcase, the one she hadn't opened. She pulled out a single, thick, cream-colored envelope. "This arrived at my office yesterday by courier. The sender was Roy. I was asked to give it to you, but only if we won. Grandad Roy." My hands were shaking as I took the letter. It was heavy. I broke the wax seal. I unfolded the heavy paper. His handwriting. A strong, old-fashioned script I hadn't seen in years. Filled the page. "My Briella," it began. "By the time you read this, a judge will have told you what I have always known. You are good. You are strong. And you are right. Your mother. She was my daughter. But she lost her way a long time ago. She chose a path of taking. You chose a path of building. Do not ever let her poison make you think you are like her. You did the hard thing. You did the right thing. You stood up. I am sorry I was not strong enough to do it myself. All those years ago. Keep your head high. Keep your heart strong. You are a Lawrence, the real kind. You're loving. Grandad Roy. A tear. One. It hit the paper, smudging the ink of his name. He had seen me. He had believed me. The last, good piece of my old life had been affirmed. My phone chimed one last time. A text from an Arizona area code. From Jenna. It was just 4 words. Heard the news? We're free? She was right. I was free. She was free. We were all free. I looked at the message from Jenna. I looked at the letter from my grandfather. I looked at the text from Victor. My new life, my real family, my future. A slow smile spread across my face. It was a real smile. It felt new, like an old muscle I was using for the first time in a decade. I slipped the letter from my grandfather into the inside pocket of my blazer. I wanted it close to my heart, and then I did the last thing. I pressed the power button on my phone. I held it. The slide to power off icon appeared. I slid my thumb across the screen. It went black. Clara held the heavy wooden courthouse door open for me. After you, VP Lawrence. I stepped out of the darkness of the courthouse, into the day. The world exploded in light. It was a perfect autumn afternoon. The sky was a sharp, piercing, impossible blue. The kind of blue you only get after a storm has scrubbed the world clean. The air was cold, crisp, and it tasted like nothing. It tasted like air. It tasted like freedom. A small breeze blew down the street, and a flurry of golden yellow leaves from a nearby tree broke free. They danced, swirling in the sunlight, before scattering on the pavement. I stood on the top step, just breathing. I didn't have a plan for the rest of the day. I didn't have a plan for the rest of my life, and it was the most glorious, terrifying, and profound feeling I had ever had. There would be no more lies, no more fighting, no more fear. There was no sequel. There was no aftermath. There was just silence. The beautiful, powerful, clean silence of justice. It was as clear and bright as the midday sun. I put on my sunglasses. I turned my face toward the light, feeling the warmth on my skin, and then I walked down the steps. I didn't look back. I walked into the sun, which was bright on my shoulders, and I didn't stop. I was free. My real life was, finally, beginning. Thank you all so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from. So please drop a comment below, and let's all connect and share our thoughts. And if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories, like this video, and give us some extra support by hitting that hype button so more people can hear it.